In our final panel, we're going to look at what the vision is for the digital future and, more importantly, how we're going to get there. Moderating the panel is Edward Greenspon, chairman of the GPS project. Ed was editor-in-chief of the Globe and Mail from 2002 to 2009. And our visionary panelists are Bernard Courtois, president and CEO of the Information Technology Association of Canada; David Ellis, who's an educator and a consultant who's written extensively on broadcasting, telecommunications, digital media, and information technology. David teaches at York University's Department of Communication Studies. Roanne Levy is general counsel and director of policy and external affairs at Access Copyright. Nathan Gunn is CEO of Social Game Universe and co-founded Bitcasters, City TV Interactive, and Miramax New Media. And Andrea Wood is the Chief Legal Officer at Wind Mobile. So take it away, Ed.
Thank you very much. Glad to be here with you all. It was I haven't been here for the whole day, but I've been in a little bit of it, and it seems terrific. Last panel was very passionate, argumentative. I thought a fist fight was going to break out in the back there, which was very exciting. So that's a good panel, and it's kind of spooky to see people are tweeting, and I get to read it while it's going on, which is terrible. So, and it's really bad because Jesse Hirsch, I thought, had done a great job moderating, and so have all of the tweeters. So I don't know, is 49 pixels in the room? Whoever's tweeting there, because if you could be as generous here as you were to, there you go, as you were to Jesse, that would be greatly appreciated. Now, you might wonder, and it'd be, just a couple of rules, okay, that I hope that we'll have. One is, let's try, I think the session worked better when people were either at the mic, which was never, but it would be good if they were, or at the handheld mic. So if you can try to wait for the handheld mic, that'd be very helpful. And two, of course, continue to be provocative. Now, I'm here as in some ways with my own background, mostly being in a 571-year-old medium, which is a technology that changed the world in its time quite profoundly, and revolutionized society and disrupted everything around it. It's kind of very familiar in some ways, so I don't really remember it when it came out 571 years ago, and it took about 75 years before it actually really did disrupt the world. It took a little while until it spread its wings out there, but by the time it was finished, it had led to the Protestant Reformation, it had led to the Renaissance, it had led to really the rise of capitalism, universal education, liberal values as we know it today. So, you know, it was a pretty profound change, and I think most people feel we're in that kind of world again, and still in its kind of adolescence, and we don't know when the next Martin Luther will bang his theses up on a church door jam, but no doubt it will happen. I started my own interest in, I guess, the digital world a little bit late. Well, I mean, I started with Napster, like many people, but in a professional way. In 1999, we were in the midst of a newspaper war with the National Post, then led by Conrad Black, and I just sort of asked what was, I guess, a heretical question at the time, which is, what if we've got this completely wrong, and the major strategic threat to the Globe and Mail over the next 3 years is the internet and not the National Post? And I was told, do you think for the next 3 months you could just like concentrate on the newspaper war? Which I did, but then lo and behold, in February 2000, we got religion, and then in fairly quick order, 3 months later, actually 10 years ago last week, we launched GlobeandMail.com, and I was the launch editor of that enterprise. So I've, I'm not a per se digital guy, but I have a long interest and involvement, and was in charge of that site over a number of years. Now, newspapers have been around about 400 years in their current form, and the first 390 were very boring for all media. I think, it was very boring. It's only the last 5-10 years where things are getting interesting, and that's, I hope, what we're going to be talking about a little bit today. Now, I've also been involved for a kind of broad-based coalition of interests and companies, from including some people in telecom, through to some educational interests and broadcast interest, venture capital, and creative people in trying to pull together a group to have some kind of consensus submission to the federal process that's looking at national digital strategy, actually a digital economy strategy, with the emphasis, I think, on the word economy in that process. So I've been working with them, and we're going to put in a submission. I've been thinking, what strategy is and it's policy, policy plus money. We can't forget the money. The money, who gets it, how much they get it, how you access it. That's, I think, the major question in the policy. And it's a related, but very related, but separate question from the marketplace, which, listening to the last panel here, is living a world that's much more market-based than probably the previous generation of producers will. And we're building our presentation, which I'm not going to go into very much, around kind of 3 C's. Capacity, which is broadband, wireless, et cetera. Capability, which is around really digital literacy and investment in people in schools and industry, both, and the capacity, the capability also of industry to adopt digital solutions. And finally, but most importantly, our C major for this process is creativity, where the true value added exists in the much broader definition of content that exists today. And today, 3.8% of Canada's GDP comes from this sector, about 660,000 jobs. But that's sort of the old arts, entertainment, cultural model. And the new model, which is a model in which people are living media, not using media, I think that'll be a much larger part of our economy and our lives. So I want to start on that note with the panel, and ask them, before we get to particularly their vision for the future. And the panel is called Visioning. Hang on, I want to get this absolutely right because it was a new word. Visioning the digital future, and visioning as a verb is not something I'm going to comment on at all today. Not at all. So I just want to start before we get to vision about talking about the how will we get there, and we do have this process out. I think people have till July 9th to comment to the government on the process, and I just kind of want to go around the horn for a minute and say, so what, in your view, and I'm going to start with you, Bernard, what do policymakers need to do, and what do they need to stop doing in order for us to succeed in developing the kind of digital society we'd like to have?
Well, we've been involved in this issue for quite some time. Just because of the nature of the ICT industry becoming more and more pervasive, we started looking at this from the standpoint of Canada's competitiveness and how we were rating and how we were shifting and how we needed a strategy that was pervasively about the economy and that was whole of government. And I don't think I would say that I didn't view it from the standpoint of what do you stop, what should you do, but we're in a context where all kinds of other countries in the world are doing the same thing, have already announced or in the process of finalizing their digital economy strategies. And I don't think it's because it's a fad. I think it's because something fundamental is happening to the global economy. People are looking at that, plus they're worried about where growth is going to come from, and they know that the kinds of things that the digital economy drives, not just the digital technology itself, is where it's going to come from. What I observe is you have to have a strategy that relates to what your country's strengths and challenges are. So they're all very similar, and they all have, digital skills. They all have access to capital, many things. But a strategy for Mexico is not going to be the same thing as a strategy for Canada or for Thailand.
So what's very particular about the strategy for Canada?
Well, we have strengths in an advanced education system, fairly educated population. We know where we need to get better there. We have fiscal strengths that are going to be hard to beat for other countries now. We've addressed some of our fundamental problems about taxation of investment, and with the way the global economies are doing, are going. We still have a year or two more of that to take place, but how are other countries going to turn that around and be competitive? So we're okay there. We have clear weaknesses on productivity, on innovation throughout our economy for productivity. If we could fix that, we'd have enough money, not only in terms of our personal prosperity, but in terms of our governments to fix so many things. So that's something we absolutely need to
Okay, well, let's come back to productivity in a few minutes. David, what do policymakers need to do or need to stop doing?
Well, I think one thing that we need to do is to pay very close attention to the document that this government has issued as part of its digital consultation, the background paper. And the first thing that I'd like to note about it is that this is not an exercise intended to develop a national digital strategy. That, to my mind, is much closer to the strategy that nobody has mentioned today, at least to my knowledge, the strategy that has been developed by the Obama administration and has been rolled out in the last few months by the FCC. The problem that I see in this document is that it is designed to promote a strategy for the digital economy, which is not at all the same thing. The strategy for the digital economy has to do with promoting Canada's competitiveness in the global market, and it has to do with the interests of various kinds of businesses, including digital businesses, and it's got absolutely nothing to do with consumers. So that's the first of three really serious omissions. The consumer is completely missing from this document in every respect. It's all about the collectivity and or about the business. Am I good? Thank you.
You've been so good so far, they want to have you twice as much.
So the first problem that I'm pointing out with the document then is that the consumer is going missing.
One's consumer. Who are the other two missing now?
And the other two missing are the money. And given what our Prime Minister just did at the G20, I'm not looking for stimulus money to be put into anything anytime soon, digital or otherwise. And the third thing that's missing, and this is where I hope everybody in this room will understand that when I say content isn't king, it's time for you guys to start worrying about the pipes. Broadband has also gone missing. And I'm pleased to hear that Gina mentioned this morning that in the UK, when they started discussing content amongst the content creators, somebody asked, well, has anybody talked to the pipe guys? What pipe guys? What broadband? Who cares?
Well, we're going to have a pipe guy gal at the end of the thing. So we'll get to broadband perhaps. Well, you're not actually terribly interested. You're more interested in wireless.